I'm Alana. Okay, so because there's a handful of you guys, a little bit more than a handful, which is amazing. I really want to use this half an hour that we have together to answer your sleep questions because you're here for a reason, right? So, you guys can please, I don't know if you guys are on video. If you guys want to show your faces, please feel free, but you don't feel like you have to. My name is Alana McGinn, and I'm founder of Goodnight Sleep Site. We are a sleep consulting practice. Hey, Sabrina. And we work with families from babies, newborns, up to preschool, up to kids, up to teens, up to tweens. We even work with adults. We do a lot of corporate lunch and learns as well. My team members, Goodnight Sleep Site, does have a booth here at MomFest Digital. They are running their booth currently. I believe their last time slot is right now. So from 12 to 1, you can find there's about 5 women from Goodnight Sleep Site that are running it there. So when you guys get off with me, you guys can head over to their booth and perhaps keep the conversations going. I do have a free guide that I want to hand out to you guys, and I will do that at the end of the session. So those who stick around to the end, you're going to get a free guide that will answer some of your sleep questions that you might be having as well. So basically what I want to do is normally when I do these things, and I did have a presentation to share, but I'm just not sure how to share it and still see the chat. And I want to make sure that I do that. So what I'm going to do is normally when I have these talks, when I've spoken at MomFest, when it's been in person before, we talk about the 4 key sleep tools that we use. Because when shaping and building a sleep plan, that is how we build the sleep plan, and using the 4 key tools. And often, hey, Bronwyn, often when we think of sleep training and putting together a sleep plan, what's the first thing we think of, right? The first thing we tend to think is the sleep method. What method do we have to use? And in actuality, the method itself, that's one of the tools, is like the last tool that we use. So I want to make sure that we are going through each tool. So what I'm going to do is there's the chat on the side that you guys can see. I'm going to start with the first tool because the first tool is one of my favorites because it is normally the easiest to implement, and it can be started at any age, even as before you even come home from the hospital with babies. So when I talk about this tool, what I want you guys to do is throw your sleep questions in the chat, because I'm going to be answering your sleep questions, and in answering your sleep questions, I'm going to be incorporating the other tools into my answers. Hey, Becky, and chances are in answering your sleep questions, I will be answering other people's sleep questions as well. So rather than me going through a presentation for you guys, I want this to be as interactive as possible and really answer your sleep questions. So I'm going to start with the first sleep tool, which is sleep environment. And as I'm explaining this, guys, throw your questions into the chat area. Okay. So the beauty about sleep environment is, as I mentioned, it can be started no matter what age your child is. So if you don't have a safe, a conducive, a consistent sleep environment put together yet, now is the time to do it. And as I mentioned, if there's some mamas that are watching that are pregnant and baby isn't here yet, this can be something that you're already starting to incorporate into your baby's nursery. And it doesn't matter what age your baby is, we always want to focus on that safe, conducive, and consistent environment. So let's start with safety. Safety is key. And as sleep professionals, it's so important, you guys. So we really want to focus on creating the safest sleep environment for our baby. And that's focusing on the ABCs of safe sleep. So having your baby sleep alone, on their back, and in their crib. Now, we work with many families who continue to room share, and you can room share till whatever time you're comfortable doing so, provided baby is in their own sleep environment in your room. So in their crib or in their bassinet. When we're focusing on the crib, we want to eliminate any kind of bedding, blankets, loose bedding, blankets, bumpers, big stuffed animals. Really, you should just have your certified safe crib, fitted mattress, fitted crib sheet, and that's it. We don't need all the bells and whistles, okay? So really focusing on that safe sleep environment, and then also look what's going on around the crib, which can often be overlooked because you're not realizing it. So things like cords, right? Cords from monitors, cords from blinds, anything that baby can kind of grab and bring into the crib, which now may make it a bit of an unsafe sleep environment. So safety is key. At any age, especially up to 12 months of age, we really want to focus on the safest sleep environment for a baby. And then we also want to focus on a conducive environment. So this is really making your nursery into think cave-like settings, right? So dark. Whether we're going into a season right now that will likely work in your favor because mornings are going to be darker and evenings are going to be darker. But installing blackout blinds for nap times if you have to, and really darkening up the room as best you can. White noise machines work really well in not only masking out those external sounds. So if you have other children running around, if you just live on a busier street or you just have a louder home, we don't want to walk on eggshells, right? Babies do have to get used to normal everyday sounds. But if you want to try to mask out some of those external sounds, things like white noise machines can work really well for that, but they can also help lull baby into that next cycle of sleep, right? Which is probably the biggest struggle, especially at nap, right? How do we consult? And I'm going to be talking about naps. I'm seeing the questions flowing in, you guys, and I love it. So I'm sure there's a nap question in there somewhere, which I'll get into more detail, but it can be hard to get them to consolidate that nap, right? And get them into that next cycle of sleep for naps. And the white noise machine can help them do that. So it doesn't have to be a static sound. It could be any kind of consistent sound, continuous sound. So not one that shuts off at 30 to 45 minutes, because that is a natural sleep cycle. So we want to make sure it stays going. But focusing on a great white noise machine can be really good. And temperature, right? We don't want things too cold. We don't want things too hot. We don't want to overheat baby. But in all honesty, we all sleep better in a cooler environment. So while it doesn't have to be ice cold, we do want to be focusing on a cooler environment, anywhere between 19 to 23 degrees. So I believe that's about 69 to 72 degrees Celsius. And just focusing on layering. So staying away from loose bedding, but maybe a onesie with a sleeper, or if you think maybe the room is too cold, a onesie with a sleeper and a wearable sleep sack, like a wearable blanket, because that keeps the temperature great and also keeps with a safe sleep environment. So that is sleep environment. You're likely doing most of what I said, if not all of what I said. But if you can take little bits of what I said and perhaps implement that into your baby's nursery, that is your first tool in creating a great sleep plan for your baby. But now I want to get to your questions. So first of all, hello, Bronwyn. Hello, Laura. Hello, Melanie. Hello, Ashley. Hello, Melissa. I know there's some of my team members that are on here as well. Guys, there is a Good Night Sleep Site booth that is running right now from 12 to 1. So when you get off with me at 12:30, you can head over to the booth at MomFest Digital, and there's about 5 or 6 of my consultants there right now, and you can continue the conversation with them as well. All right, so Melissa, how can I get my 14-month-old to sleep through the night? She still wakes at least once between 12 and 2, and then wakes around 5 a.m. and wants to nurse until wake up time. Okay, so 14 months, I mean, when we're talking about that age, and even younger than that, when we're getting even, in that first 12 months of age, when we're seeing frequent night wakings happening, it's for 2 reasons. And even as old as 14 months, okay? 2 things that can be happening. One is sleep is getting lost somewhere, okay? So do we need to work on consolidating out naps? Do we need to work on moving bedtime a little bit earlier? Because if baby isn't getting enough daytime sleep, or child or toddler, 14-month-old, or going to bed too late, they're likely going down overtired, which is going to result in more night wakings, okay? And even that early morning, I think you said 5 a.m., right? When we're seeing early mornings, guys, in all honesty, if a family comes to me and says, why am I seeing these early mornings? The very first thing that I ask is, what time is bedtime? And chances are bedtime is too late. And I know logically we would think if we put baby down to bed later, they'll sleep later. If we put baby down to bed too early, they're going to wake up super early. But we have to think about the sleep needs of baby, and children and toddlers need a lot more sleep than we do. So when we're putting them down better rested, when they're getting great naps, when they're getting an early age appropriate bedtime, they're going to sleep more restfully, and they're going to actually push out that early morning. So that goes along with the second and third tool that I want to talk about, and that's naps and bedtime. Okay. The last tool is methods. I'm sure in the questions we'll get there. Actually, Melissa's, I think I can work it into yours too. So the first thing I want you to focus on, Melissa, is naps. Now, 14 months, and maybe you can respond in the chat. We usually start bedtime routine around 6:30, but naps are always a struggle. So I'm assuming baby's still on 2 naps, which is fine. Normally we transition from the 2 to 1 nap around 15 to 18 months. So I don't recommend you go there yet if you're considering it. Stick with the 2 naps right now. Naps can be a struggle. Naps are probably, and this is for anyone watching that also has a baby in that 4 to 12 month mark. Naps are definitely a struggle. The main reason why that is because our drive for sleep isn't as strong during the day as it is at night. So it's harder for them to consolidate that sleep. It's harder for them to practice that skill of falling back asleep if they do wake up at that 30 to 45 minute mark, right? So it takes a lot of practice, meaning we have to allow them the time and the opportunity to practice that skill of self-soothing. Even as at 14 months, guys, it's never too late. So never think that, okay? So this is where I tend to tell parents and families to look at nap times as they're not optional times, right? It's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you eventually call your child to the table to eat one of those meals, they're going to come because it's something that you're doing with them every single day. So naps should be treated in the same way, meaning, instead of wondering what time do I put them down, what time do I wake them up at, what do I do, just think to yourself, nap time is this time to this time in the morning, this time to this time in the afternoon, whether baby or toddler is awake, whether baby or toddler is asleep. This is when they're in their crib. This is their nap time. And the more consistent you are with that, the more practice they're going to get in falling back asleep. Naps can produce some crying. I'm not going to lie, you guys. Naps aren't easy. I know I'm making it sound really easy, but naps normally take a few weeks to be really consistent. So keep chipping away at it. Be really consistent on when you're putting them down, how you're putting them down, and how you're handling those short wakings. If you're swooping in right away and ending that nap at that time, the only guarantee you're getting is that they're not getting enough sleep, right? So maybe focusing on the naps a little bit can curb some of those night wakings. And then I'm also seeing an association factor. So remember how we said there's 2 reasons why we see frequent night wakings, even in that 4 to 12 month mark as well. I know right now we're talking about Melissa with her 14-month-old. If you're seeing frequent night wakings, sleep's getting lost somewhere. So we're going to work on consolidating naps. We're going to bring up, I think your bedtime is actually pretty good. 6:30 bedtime is pretty good. I would actually like to see, is it her or him? Her, in her crib by 6:30. So bedtime routine, start that at 6. Okay. So we're working on getting more sleep, right? Consolidating naps, moving up bedtime a little bit. The other reason why we might see more night wakings is associations, right? So what do you need to do in order for baby or toddler to fall back asleep? And here we know it's nursing, right? So this is where we go to the last tool, which is choosing that method. And when we choose that method, that is what we will do instead of offering that feed. We know at 14 months, nutritionally, baby doesn't need any more feeds or toddler doesn't need any more feeds throughout the night, right? Normally by 6 months of age, excuse me, provided baby is thriving, healthy, doctor's given the okay, mom has a very consistent and good feeding association. We never want sleep training to compromise milk supply. Then we're working on kind of weaning out all feeds because nutritionally at that point, baby doesn't need them. 14 months, we know for sure she doesn't. So that's where now we have to choose that method and use that instead of the feeding. So I hope that helps. I want to make sure I get to other questions, but those are a little things that you can work on that I would definitely include in the sleep plan that is created for you. All right, Ashley. When should we start weaning things like blackout blinds and sound machines? My little one is 18 months old. That's actually a great question. So when we incorporate things, again, going back to our first tool, I'm going to keep referring back to the tools, guys, because I think this will help if you want to put that sleep plan together. It will help you do that, okay? So things like blackout blinds, sound machines, that goes into our first tool, which is sleep environment. We add in tools like that in order to teach our babies those independent sleep skills. It's not to say that they need those tools forever. So that's a great question, Ashley, because you can, and provided your baby's sleeping well, you can start weaning them out if you want to. Absolutely. Not every baby needs pitch black. Not every baby needs that sound machine. So once your baby's doing really well, or your toddler, your 18-month-old is doing really well with sleeping, I wouldn't recommend doing it, soon after you finish sleep training. Like, keep it a couple of months just to make sure that you're really cementing in those skills. But once those skills are in place, tools like that, blackout blinds, sound machines, and things like that can be weaned out. So you can start doing that now, provided she's sleeping really well, or she or he is sleeping really well. Great question. All right, Melanie, 9-month-old, not sleeping through the night, keeps us awake sometimes for 2 hours. How can we stop this? Okay, so this kind of goes back to Melissa's question, right? But now we're working with the 9-month-old, and in all honesty, not much is different. So focusing on the first tool, which is sleep environment. So maybe you can take some stuff from there that you can implement. Let's get to naps, right? So at 9 months, we're looking at 2 naps a day, a morning nap and an afternoon nap. About an hour and a half each is our goal. Not every baby's a 2-hour napper, guys. So please don't get discouraged if your baby doesn't do 2 hours, but we want to work towards that hour and a half in the morning and that hour and a half in the afternoon. So remember, giving them that time. If you actually go to either my Instagram feed, which is at GN Sleep Site, or on our website, you'll see it. And I talk a lot about the practice of ABLE. And this is really making sure that we are teaching our babies, and so that we know ourselves that they really are capable of falling asleep on their own. So allowing them the time to practice that for naps. Okay, so that would be the first thing I would focus on. That's the second tool that we talk about is naps. Bedtime routine, right? What time is baby going down to bed? Maybe you posted that. Is this the same, Melanie? Yes, it is. Okay. 9-month-old sleeps 2 naps of 2 hours each. Okay. So you're already doing really well with your naps. No, that's not it. That's not too much. Is that too much? And would that be the reason why he doesn't sleep well at night? Okay. So Melanie answered my question about naps. Your naps are actually really good. 2-hour naps at 9 months is not too much. I'm curious to know what else is going on. For instance, what time is baby going down to bed? Maybe we need to move that bedtime earlier, meaning maybe naps need to be shifted a bit earlier as well. And then remember, the other reason why we tend to see more night wakings is what's happening in that 2-hour stretch at night when baby is awake. If you're going in, if you're feeding, if you're rocking, how we put baby down to sleep at bedtime, you guys, whether it be feeding to sleep, rocking to sleep, bouncing on a ball, whatever you're doing, is how baby's going to need to fall asleep when they wake up in the middle of the night. Okay, so we want to start working on those independent sleep skills right at bedtime, which is really important. All right, so I would focus on those 2 things. Move up bedtime. Bedtime, you're probably looking at a bedtime anywhere between 6 and 6:30 at 9 months. Guys, if you know me and follow Goodnight Sleep Site, you know that we push for early bedtime. So that might be a shock to some. Maybe not to others, but we're looking at an earlier bedtime perhaps. And then focusing on choosing that method, right? To wean out whatever's going on in that 2-hour stretch. So I hope that helps. All right. Laura, thanks so much, guys. 34. I'm going to take a quick picture so that I can post this before I get into. Yay! You guys are awesome. Okay, Laura. At what age or stage do you recommend moving baby from bassinet and mom and dad's room to crib in the nursery? I love this question. Okay, so let me sidebar for one quick second. When a lot of the information that I'm giving you today applies mainly to 4 months and up. Okay, so if there's any pregnant mamas watching, or give me a hands up, you can always post in the chat and say, that's me, or any 4th trimester mamas, so 0 to 4 months of age. Keep in mind that not all of this information applies to you. Things like, I was talking about certain, nap, how many naps the child should be getting throughout the day, or certain bedtimes and things. That kind of stuff doesn't apply to you. We have a great newborn package that might help some of you guys in that. Or you can head over to the Goodnight booth and ask the team some more newborn questions if need be, okay? So I just want to make sure that those watching that are either pregnant or in that 4th trimester don't feel the pressure that you have to apply all of this right away, okay? So to answer your question, Laura, is a lot of 4-month trimester mamas and dads are having babies sleep in their room, which is totally fine. And even past that point, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months of age. We've worked with a lot of families who have room shared. We don't really push the move into the baby's nursery because we've also sleep trained. Well, we have sleep trained a lot of babies who stay in the parents' room. So we don't really put that on the comfort of mom or dad or of the parents. We don't recommend bed sharing, only because I understand that people make a lifestyle choice to have a family bed, and that is amazing. The reason why it's not something that we recommend is because as sleep professionals, we have to recommend the safest environment for baby to sleep. So provided baby's in their own sleep environment in your room and not coming into your bed, it's really up to you, is really the answer to my question, to your question. When you feel comfortable and confident in having baby sleep in their nursery, and your baby will be fine sleeping in the nursery, but you have to be ready to take that step, go for it. I hope that helps. Quick and easy answer. All right, Bronwyn. When should naps be regular as part of a schedule? Great question. How can we begin to implement a standard schedule nap time? Baby sleeps very well at night and goes down easily. Amazing. So I don't know how old your baby is, but we normally start focusing on a more clock-based schedule once baby turns about 4 to 4.5 months of age, corrected, right? So we have to factor in birth date versus estimated due date. But it would be around that 4 to 4.5 month mark is when we start working with a more clock-based schedule while still watching baby's cues. So times can be shifted a little bit, but it's normally at that point. Yeah, so I think that answers your question. When should naps be regular as part of the schedule? I think that answers your question. All right, sorry guys, I know I'm going fast, but there's so many amazing questions. I want to make sure I get to all of you guys. Nadine, hello. Tips on keeping baby asleep. Okay, so here's the 4th trimester. My 9-week-old has a hard time staying asleep during the day when put down in a crib or bassinet from my arms or when worn. Swaddling, sleep sacks, and sometimes work. Nighttime sleep is typically great, but falling asleep and staying asleep is problematic, although my toddler hasn't helped the situation either. Ha! I have 3 kids. My youngest are twins, so I get the whole toddler versus baby situation. That is like a whole other thing. So I feel you on that, mama, for sure. Okay, so the first thing that I always want to tell parents in that 4th trimester is take the pressure off, okay? There aren't any hard and true rules during this stage. So don't feel that whatever you're doing is wrong and can't be fixed down the road, okay? Provided we're working with a safe sleep environment, 2 things you can always do at this stage in that 4th trimester, and 2 things that you can focus on from day 1. Safe sleep, always, right? Safe sleep environment, all the environment tools, conducive, consistent, all of those things. The other thing is just watch those wake times. Make sure that those wake times aren't stretched out too long between sleep phases. So between, morning wake time and morning nap. At this age, you're going to see short, short, consistent, that consistent isn't the word I want. Short, frequent is what I want to say, naps throughout the day. You might see about 5 or 6 naps throughout the day. There isn't really a consistency in schedule at this age. So if you're concerned about that, don't be, okay? And this is where I say take that pressure off. Focusing on sleep environment, focusing on shorter wake times, you're probably maybe looking at about 45 minutes to an hour between sleep phases at this age. So really watching the cues at this age, because overstimulation can happen really quickly and really easily, which is what we want to try and avoid. If you have to swoop in at this age and do it for them, that's okay. So I don't want you to feel that. I know it's tiring. Like I know it is. And I know you want that solution, but there isn't a method really at this stage. At 2 months of age, which you're, you're there, 9 weeks old, you can focus on what we call our sun up and sun down routine, which is up an hour, down 2, up an hour, down 2, up an hour, down 2. I know that down 2 can be a lot easier said than done. Don't focus too much on that. Just focus on the up an hour. So whether baby wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or whether baby, this is in the 4th trimester, or whether baby wakes up at 7 a.m. in the morning, that's where you start your sun up and sun down routine. So up for an hour and then down for 2 and continue that. That is really as much routine as you can get in that 4th trimester. Once baby gets closer to that 4.5 month mark, you can start taking a little bit more control and start implementing more things that I talked about today. So I don't know if I specifically answered all your question, but really that's that 4th trimester information that you can kind of take and apply as best you can. And I hope that helps. All right. Ashley, I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure I'm getting to everyone, Ashley. So I'm going to skip you for a second because I know I answered one of your questions before. I want to get to Anastasia because I haven't answered anything from her yet. What if the baby is crying after waking up after 30 minutes of napping? Should I go in and try to calm baby down? Great question. Okay, so that is so common, right? Baby's waking up after that 30 or 45 minutes. Baby is likely still tired. Baby is frustrated because baby can't fall back asleep. Perhaps baby is working on a new skill that isn't coming as easy as they want, and the crying and the frustration is happening, right? So a lot of times what we do is we swoop in and do it for them, or we swoop in and end the nap, and that's what we want to avoid doing. So this is where I go to that practice of ABLE. And again, if you go to our Instagram, if you go on our website, I do talk about the practice of ABLE, and that's really allowing baby time to figure it out. You don't have to leave baby crying for hours and hours, but work within your comfort level. If you can just wait 5 minutes before going in, and then maybe the next day you can wait 10 minutes, and then maybe the next day you can wait 15 minutes. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Naps take time. I always say, if I had the solution to naps, I would write a book and I would be a millionaire, because it is the most common sleep issue with families. You just have to be super consistent with how you're handling it. And the more time you can leave them to figure it out, the quicker they're going to get it. So we always say add at least 20 to 30 minutes before going to get them. If you can't do that because that's just out of your comfort zone, I get it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long you can do it to allow them to practice that skill of consolidating out that nap. It takes time, you guys. Don't be discouraged. Your baby's not going to figure it out in a day. They may not even figure it out in a week. When we're working with families, we have some families sometimes for up to a month where things are still a little inconsistent for naps, and that's normal. Eventually baby gets it. So just be as consistent as you can with the follow through. I hope that helps. All right, Bailey Babbins, I love that name. 8-week-old will not nap unless in car seat. This mama is exhausted going on walks all day, every day, and screwed on rainy days like today. Okay, so I did, sorry guys, I'm coughing up a storm here. I did talk a lot about fourth trimester sleep. Some of that information you might be able to apply. Again, we want to focus on safe sleep. Unattended sleep in car seat, and I don't know if this is what's happening, isn't the safest environment for baby. So I would first recommend you transfer baby into a safer sleep environment like a bassinet or a crib. I know that's probably going to wake baby up, and that defeats the purpose of the car seat sleep, but just don't be discouraged by this. Normally by 2 months of age, which is kind of where you're at, now we're really starting to focus on that consistent sleep space. And in all honesty, guys, what we always tell clients is they're not going to get comfortable and used to their crib unless they're in it. So they might fight you on it because they might not like it right away, but the more they're in it, both for naps and for night sleep, and really work on that consistency of environment, the quicker they are going to get it. Because 2 things that we want to see happening, guys. 1, we hope they sleep the entire time they're in the crib, from the moment we put them down to the moment they wake up. You know, we don't live in a perfect world, so that might not happen all the time. But we also want to focus on them being happy and content and awake in their crib or bassinet and not need you right away, right? The only way we're going to get there is by being really consistent and placing them down, following the ABCs of safe sleep, guys, alone, on their backs, and in their cribs. I think I have to get off. I don't know if I'm going to get kicked off. I don't know how this works, but it is 12:30. So what I do want to do, I know I couldn't get to all of your questions, but I do want to post this free guide that you guys can download. Let me just get the link. I'm going to post this in the chat. Thank you for everyone attending. Feel free for all the questions that I couldn't get to. My apologies. Thank you so much for everyone showing up. This was amazing. The booth is still open. So if you go back into the booth area, there is a Good Night Sleep Site booth where you'll find about 5 or 6 of my team members that are working that booth. Please tell them that I sent you for my talk. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, one of them will answer it for you. Please feel free to download the sleep guide that might help you. And you can reach me at goodnightsleepsite.com. You can book a discovery call. Please mention MomFest in your discovery call blurb that you write, and we can set up a discovery call with one of our consultants. You can find me on Instagram at GN Sleep Site, and we also have an amazing podcast called This Girl Loves Sleep, where you can download all podcasts. So thanks everyone for attending.